The fake rich kid. We start with the one nobody will ever admit to being, because the whole illusion only survives as long as you don't look closely. The fake rich kid isn't wealthy. What they have is a system, and the system is coverage. Here's how it works. You get hold of one or two genuinely expensive things, a designer bag, a watch, sometimes literally rented for the weekend from the apps that now exist purely for this. And you make that single item appear in everything from every angle until the people scrolling quietly build an entire lifestyle around it that was never there. The rest is logistics. Buy now, pay later turns one splurge into the illusion of many. A friend's apartment becomes a backdrop. A car showroom becomes a photo studio. What makes this type genuinely fascinating is the effort to payoff ratio, because sustaining the appearance of ease is exhausting, unpaid, full-time work, usually performed for an audience doing the exact same thing right back. Most of us have met a fake rich kid and believed every second of it, which technically means the system worked. The fraudster, and yes, this is the one the comments always insist got left off the last list. The fraudster is the fake rich kid who realized that just looking rich leaves money on the table. The fake rich kid wants your belief. The fraudster wants your bank details while you're still believing. Here's the mechanism. They don't sell a product, they sell proximity. The idea that if you pay in, some of the wealth rubs off on you. The clearest real example is Anna Sorokin, who moved through New York's elite for years as Anna Delvey, a German heiress who didn't exist and talked hotels, banks, and acquaintances out of enormous sums before a court finally called it fraud. Or Billy McFarland, who sold thousands of people tickets to Fire Festival, a luxury island getaway that turned out to be a wet field, some disaster relief tents, and a federal prison sentence. What separates the fraudster from everyone else here is direction. Their money doesn't come down from a family or up from their own work. It's pulled sideways, out of the pockets of people who wanted to believe. And the con always runs on the same fuel, the quiet human hope that the rich might let you stand near them. The trust fund kid. This one is genuinely structurally rich in the most passive way a person can be. Here's how it actually works. A relative, usually a grandparent, locks a sum into a legal trust, and that trust releases it on rules the kid never wrote. A slice at 21, more at 25, the principal maybe at 30, with a trustee quietly signing off on anything in between. The defining feature was never the money. It's the absence of consequence. When there's a floor sitting that far beneath you, a bad decision simply doesn't fall the same distance. It falls for everyone else, and that cuts both ways. Some trust fund kids use the safety to take swings nobody else could afford. Funding a company, an album, a decade of failing on purpose, because for them failure is an inconvenience, not a cliff. Others use it to collect expensive hobbies and a heartfelt, unshakable belief that they are entirely self-made. The tale never changes. Ask one how they got started, and the story quietly begins. Somewhere around the $250,000 that was already in the account before they woke up. The Nepo Baby, short for nepotism, adopted by the internet around 2022 and sharpened into a full-time accusation the day a single magazine cover turned it into a national argument. Here's the mechanism that makes it work. In almost every career, the hardest part is getting anyone to look at you at all. The audition, the meeting, the first year. The Nepo Baby skips that entire stage because a parent already runs the room. The talent can come later. The access is there from birth. It clusters in acting, music, and fashion industries that have quietly run on family bloodlines for a century, long before the internet started keeping the receipts. And here's the part that makes it impossible to cleanly resent. Some Nepo babies are genuinely, undeniably good, because a head start and real skill were never mutually exclusive. They can inherit the door and still be talented once they walk through it. That's why the argument never resolves. Both things are true at the same time. The advantage was real, and so sometimes is the ability. You're just never allowed to know the exact ratio between the two. The influencer heir, a category that barely existed a generation ago and now somehow sustains whole families. Here's the mechanism, and it's a genuine inversion of an old rule. Wealth used to buy privacy. You got rich in order to disappear behind gates. The influencer heir flipped that completely, realizing that in an attention economy, money is worth more pointed at a camera than hidden behind a wall. This is the genre reality television built and social media perfected. The family that turned filming its own wealth into a business bigger than whatever originally created the wealth. The closet tours, the day in my life, that opens in a house you will never enter. No specific talent is required, which is exactly where the outrage lives and exactly why it works. The product isn't a skill. The product is access to a life, sold retail by the person living it. Critics say it flattens wealth into content. Millions of people watch anyway. because there's something quietly hypnotic about a world you'll never touch. The influencer heir understood the one rule old money never will. Being watched being rich is all by itself a full-time salary. And for plenty of them, that's exactly where it ends. But the smartest ones do the thing the stereotype never sees coming. They treat the attention as raw material. The clearest example is the Kardashians, who took reality television fame and quietly turned it into an actual empire. Skims, Kylie Cosmetics, one business after another, built on an audience they already owned. That's the twist most people miss here. Being watched being rich looks like the whole job. For the ones paying attention, it was only ever the starting capital. The new money kid whose family got rich recently and refuses, on principle, to be quiet about it. Here's the context that explains everything about them. New Money was built inside a single lifetime, a tech company, a business that scaled a contract, one clean exit by the same self-made class that produced the Bezos and Gates generation, people who started with little and compounded it into enormous fortunes in a couple of decades. And that history is the whole key when you have spent years without money. Spending it isn't arrogance. It's the completely natural reflex of touching real wealth for the first time. So the house is huge and unmistakably new. The car is loud in every possible sense. The clothing states its price without being asked. Old money finds all of this vulgar, which the new money kid finds genuinely funny, because after a lifetime of being told wealth comes with rules, they looked at those rules written mostly by people who never had to earn theirs and quietly opted out. But loud money is at least easy to spot. The last type on this list you'd walk straight past: the self-made heir. The self-made heir, the most respectable contradiction on the whole list. Here's the tension that defines them. They were born with every advantage available, and then out of pride or restlessness or something to prove, they chose to act as if they weren't. They take the hard job, launch the company, and grind through the genuinely unglamorous years. Not for a documentary crew, but because coasting made their skin crawl. The most telling ones bury the family name early, specifically so nobody can hand them the success. A plan that works beautifully right up until they win loudly enough that the buried name becomes the headline anyway. And this is exactly why the rest of us can never quite file them. They didn't start from nothing, so the full self-made trophy doesn't fit. But they turned down the easy chair that was right there in the room, which almost nobody does, so resentment doesn't fit either. They live in the one narrow band of the wealth map, where the internet runs out of things to be angry about, and then predictably gets a little angry that it can't be angry. And finally, the old money kid, and the exact opposite of everyone we've met. And it is the most deliberate on the entire list. Where new money spends to prove it exists, old money hides to prove it doesn't have to. Their wealth wasn't made this year, or even this century. Think of the names that have sat near the top for generations. The Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts, the Astors. Fortune structured less around spending and more around preservation, held in trusts, land, and institutions built to hand the next generation more than the last one received. The single unbreakable family rule is that you never ever mention it. No logos, no noise, nothing that could be mistaken for effort. Just plain clothing chosen so no one could ever guess what it cost. An accent sanded smooth by the right schools. And a house that has never once been called new, because new would quietly admit the money was too. Lately it has a fashionable name, stealth wealth, but the goal is ancient: to look like you have nothing to prove because you truly don't. Which leaves the strangest realization of the whole list. In a room full of rich kids all competing to look the richest, the one who actually is will almost always be the person you never noticed at all.